So, without further ado, I'm going to start my Patreon page. And I made a decision to reserve this, the Patreon for following the book, which means following the analysis and understanding of governing systems, how they are assembled, how they function, the purpose of government, and how democracy and Republican forms of government work, democratic too, because there's more than one democratic form of government. We seem to be locked mentally into this idea that a democracy is, voting other people. I think that would probably be the best way to do it. But what I decided was that I would not try to argue politics or what they're doing today on the Patreon, because that would be counter to what I'm trying to do with the book. There is a chapter in the book about competitive politics and why it can't work and how to fix our government by raising this current embodiment of the government. But I decided that my YouTube page could handle that. I could attack a improperly assembled government on the YouTube page and save this Patreon for discussing how government is supposed to function, what the purpose is. So with that in mind, what is the most important thing about our government? And when you answer that question, the most important thing is, what's the purpose of our government? Why do we even have a government? What's it supposed to do? Do we have a good handle on that? What a government is supposed to do? Now, a lot of people will try to say that it's supposed to some kind of way give and protect rights or something, or I don't know, but no, that's not what a government is for. And with what I discussed earlier about how engineering works to solve problems, the first step is defining the problem. And the only way you can define the problem is to go back to the beginning to find out what they were trying to do, what was the goal of what they were doing, why did they form a government? And to answer that, you have to say, why did they form a union? Because the United States is the union. And the United States in Congress assembled is the government. Why? Because the thing that government is for is what is established in Congress. Okay? So let's go back to find out what government is for. And when we do that, we have to go back to the last chapter of the Declaration of Independence. Okay? If we look at the whole Declaration of Independence, what you find is a lot of bitching and moaning about how they were treated and oppressed by a government thousands of miles away. And they were unfairly taxed. They had no participation in decision making. They had, all they were was giving to the British Crown through taxes and having to do what they were told. And that's where they come into this idea that no, we need to be a free and independent state. And that's exactly what they say in the final paragraph of the Declaration of Independence, is that these colonies have a right to be free and independent states with the full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and to do any other acts, all other acts and things an independent state may by right do. And that was states plural because each state was declaring their independence from the British Crown individually, even though they put it in one document, because they didn't have a union at that time. Because in order to form a union, you have to have a participation versus compliance agreement, which establishes the benefits, privileges, rights of participation in decision-making, and cost of membership in the union. Without that, you can't have a union, because that has to be done by an agreement. And not just any old agreement, it has to be a unanimous agreement of those who form the union. So if there was one state that didn't want to agree to those things, they would not have been on the Declaration of Independence. Well, they may have been on the Declaration of Independence because they could be fighting, declaring their independence from the state of Great Britain, along with the other colonies. So they could be on that document. But when they did the Articles of Confederation, they would not have been in the Union without a unanimous agreement to those Articles of Confederation, which is assembly of the states in a union. That's what confederation means, just like Constitution. That ION at the end, TION, means to form or to assemble. That's why the Constitution is no more and no less than the blueprints and the standard operating procedure for a legislative assembly, which is a union. Okay? That's the participation in decision-making part. So you have these rights to for war and peace and alliances and commerce and how to act as a state, to do all the, when you interact with other nations, states, or entities. That's what they had to agree to form the union. Okay? To form the union. They had to agree to how are we going to assemble 13 unequal states as equals in order to make the decisions of a new free and independent state, which is a union of all the states. Okay? That's the purpose of government. And that makes the purpose of government decision-making. Collective decision-making. So you need a decision-making process. And that's why we have a legislative assembly. Because a democracy is a legislative assembly. All the states are assembled as equals to participate in the legislative process, and all the states have equal suffrage to determine the decision. Whether it's the assent to do something or whatever it is, they have equal suffrage to vote. And the vote has to be by a predetermined majority consensus. At that time was 9 of 13 states. They have a clause in Article 9 of the Articles of Confederation, which divides those different decisions into different categories, where just about everything is determined by a 9 of 13 state majority consensus. And that 8 of 13 would be a simple majority consensus, but they reserve that for very, it wasn't to how to act. It's mostly things that they needed to do as a union. As the union. Between the states, for how the states interacted with each other to maintain the union. And you see that same separation when you get to the Constitution of the United States, where the Article 1 Assembly, which is a confederated compound republic, that's only to maintain the union through laws. Okay? But when it comes to acting as the union, that's done under the Article 2 configuration, which is the original Confederacy, which is a democracy. All the states are assembled as equals. All the states have equal suffrage to reach a majority consensus. That's a democracy. You can't get any more democratic than that. And that's what they did. It was 9 of 13 states to assent to any treaty. And no state can make a treaty on their own with another country or even between the states. They agreed that that would be done by the union of the states, not by the states individually. So, and that's still the same today. The fact that it doesn't work today is a different situation. Okay, that's a different question altogether. Why doesn't it work today? And the simple answer is our government is improperly assembled and it's improperly operated. But the purpose of government is to make collective decisions. The government does not govern the people. The government doesn't govern the states. What is governed is collective decision making of the states on the federal level, of the counties on the state level. And then when you go down, then you finally get to the people being governed. But we're not talking about 10 Commandment laws here. What we're talking about is laws to ensure that to manage how the government functions and how it's assembled. Not laws about murder and theft and stuff like that. And treason is when you do not respect the assembly of the states in Congress as the union. That's treason. And when you work against that assembly, to constitute means to form or assemble. And the only thing formed and assembled by the Constitution of the United States is Congress as a legislative assembly governed by legislative processes to reach a majority consensus. And that's what each person who serves in the United States government swears that they will support, is that assembly. And we've forgotten that. But that's where I want to start. Thank you.